It's a national championship edition of Talkin' Hoops with Gary Blair. We do it every year. We've done this on KZNE and now the last 3 years on TexAgs for 7 of the 8 years in the Gary Blair era. And now we're talking about a couple of trophies. You'll see over here the national championship trophies, Gary Blair. We've also brought in the A-team, Logan Pounds Lee, hanging out here with Gary Blair. But, Coach, we've done this for a long time, and now we're talking about a national championship. We gave you a week off, rested up a little bit, and now we got to talk to you about how does it feel a week later?
You're still just going 100 miles an hour. You get up every morning, you open the blinds, and I look out to the third green at Traditions, and it feels pretty good. But then you look at your ring, and you see last year's Big 12 championship, and today we're designing the national championship ring. So it's special. My seniors will be involved, but the best thing is the reconnect that you have with all the people over the last 30 years that have helped you to get to this place. At South Oak Cliff, Texas Tech, my old high school, Brian Adams, and then my coaching stops along the way at Louisiana Tech, Stephen F., Arkansas, and here. Those are friends that you have for a lifetime, and you want to share those moments with them, and then you want to share the important moments with the Aggies. And that's fun. And last night out at Traditions, I went up for the Mexican buffet, and they had the 58 class there. And it was almost like I was John David Crow. I loved it.
Getting even more particular, the Aggies who helped build your program, that was something special. You were able to share this national championship with Aquanisha Franklin, with Katie Pounds, with Mariniki Atun-Rashe, Danielle Gant. The list goes on. Quite a few of them were there to celebrate, and you even allowed them to cut down some nets during the celebration.
I think it was special, and Jamila Ganter and Katrina Lambaha, and these are all kids, and Demetria, that either made the Dallas Regional or they still made the Indianapolis Regional. And these are kids that people don't realize how close we were in 2008, I believe, when we lost to Tennessee, when we're up by 5 with 6 to go, and then Tennessee won the national championship. Each year it keeps building. And in between, there were some tough losses in the second round and then the third round, the 2 years prior to this. But I think it builds you up to make you appreciate the wins that you do have. And going on to that next level, you have to have some luck involved. And then you have to have some good play. And then you have to have tremendous chemistry and leadership to win it, which we did.
Yeah, and you kind of touched on it with the 58 class at Traditions and them treating you like John David Crow. And they knew a thing or two about John David Crow because that was his class. He won the Heisman in '57 under Bear Bryant. But the buzz around this town, the buzz around Aggieland for women's basketball, not just at the game. Of course, you didn't see it, but the bars were full. They were packed. People going crazy. There might have been a couch or two burned out in the quad or something out there on campus. It was wild, and it's still wild. Even Louis Bellina's talking about women's basketball. I mean, we love Louis, but that ought to tell you a little something about the
Now, if he can name me all 5 players on my starting lineup, I'll buy him a steak. Now,
well, let's not go crazy now.
That's all right, but at the same time, it's good for A&M. A national championship, whether it's in golf or track or almost in softball a couple years ago, it's good for all of us because we are building that whole total program. We finished 6th last year in the Sears Cup, and I think we'll finish about the same this year. When you come back into town and there's 7,000 people to greet you in Reed Arena, and it's special, and particularly it was special having a lot of my coaching colleagues here that were in the stands, and that really meant a lot. And then driving down University to see tent sales, and they're selling national championship women's basketball t-shirts, and people are just lining up, whether they've seen us live, but now they've listened to your show and they listened to our radio show and they've seen us on TV. It's very special. And this is the same thing that happened when I was at Arkansas when our men won the national championship in '94 and then finished second in '95. I mean, Nolan Richardson and our players, they were just like cult figures out there. But now it's happening for the women, but it's happening for Texas A&M, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah, and a big part of it, Coach, is you've recruited an excellent group of ladies. You know, not just, and that, I think that probably makes it a little bit more special. You've got a bunch of really good people with high character that you've recruited, brought on, and even developed. You look at the way Danielle Adams and Tyra White are as interviewers or interviewees, and the way they answer questions thoughtfully, and just their smile, the way they light up a room, that wasn't here maybe when they came on campus. The recruitment and the development of great character people, that's how you win national championships, because when the chips are down, when Sydney Colson gets 3 fouls in 8 minutes, somebody's got to pull together, and that's where character comes in.
Well, championships are won sometimes in the living rooms when they're 17 years old. And you're looking at the family and you're seeing a reflection of that kid and the mom and the dad or the grandmother or the brother and sister. And then you take it to that next level. Then they come up here and they become young ladies or young men between 18 and 22. And then the whole A&M system and the traditions, it starts going in. Like we were talking right before we went on air about Gerard Johnson and Sydney Colson. They could have all of our jobs. Yeah. I mean, they're that talented, and that's what A&M is producing in a lot of fields. And this is what's good about sports, is it gives you a chance, it gives you that platform to not only sell yourself or the high school that you came from, but other student athletes around here. And I'm just proud to be an Aggie, but I'm proud of who we represent. And my players have done an excellent job of being in front of the media. We won all the press conferences up there. Yes. Okay, that was a definitely. We won all the press. We even won the mascot thing when our yell leader kicked the leprechaun and whatever that tree was from there, and the husky. We won that too. So it's been good, and I think that's what you want, the exposure for our program. I'm overexposed, and but that's fine. But if I get to talk about A&M, then maybe I'm going to convince Louis to see our first game next year.
You talked about championships being won as 17, 18-year-olds in the living rooms. Did you see the teams that you've been building? Have you seen this championship coming, progressing, getting closer each and every year with the talent and the leaders that you have?
We saw our team being considered up there with the Duke, Connecticut, Stanford's, Tennessee's, and maybe even Notre Dame's. Whereas before, we were always the trendy team. Mm-hmm. Everybody loved us. They loved our defense. They loved the Daniel Adams story or the Sydney Colson fast break or even the Katie Pounds lead jump shot from the corner. I had to put that plug in. But they loved that. But could you beat the champions? On the men's side, it's more or less the great players are one and out, or at least are out by their junior year, sort of like baseball players. But on the women's sides, the Tina Charles and the Maya Moores or the Ketchens or the Candace Parkers, they stayed at those schools for all 4 years. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to catch up with them knowing that they're going to have impact players after impact players after impact players. And you put all those together, that's why the championships have been won by so few teams on the women's side. Now, hopefully, Texas A&M can join that list. But at the same time, I think we're giving hope to a lot of other colleges around that, hey, we can build a team. We might not have all the McDonald All-Americans, but you can still win the national championship. Butler almost did it on the men's side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And speaking of two impact athletes with great character, Danielle Adams and Sydney Colson, you were able to, a few days after the national title, go to Bristol, Connecticut, on the campus of ESPN and witness two of your players right there in person get drafted in the second round of the WNBA draft. Sydney Colson tying Mariniki Tunushe for the highest ever draftee in Texas A&M history.
It was a special day. The first time they've ever have done the draft at Bristol. And I had no idea the place was like a little university. You walk from building to building, and you saw these bright young people. They were all your age, Logan, that were doing it. And then, of course, you saw the heavyweights like Linda Cohen interviewed me and everything like that. I was waiting to see Chris Berman. I just, give me a name, Chris. Give me a name. Gary Blank Blair. Probably Gary Old Blair, but it would have worked. But these were my heroes that I grew up listening to, and you're young enough. Do you realize what sports was before ESPN?
I don't. I can't. I was thinking about that. I can't remember a time without ESPN.
Oh, well.
You weren't alive, Logan.
It's, what is it, 25 years or something like that?
Yeah, a little over that now.
But the kids were treated with royalty. I mean, it was first class. You had the chairs and the parents and the coaches in there. And then here, myself and Danielle and her mom, we were sitting on the front table, and Sydney Colson was next to us. We had the front row up there. And we were a little surprised that Sydney went before Danielle. But it's all about needs. It's not about talent sometimes. It's what those particular clubs need. And there's only 12 WNBA teams, where I believe there's 32 NBA teams. And so sometimes in the NBA, they take the best athlete available no matter what. In the WNBA, it was a point guard league, and they needed point guards. Colson got drafted by Connecticut, was traded immediately to New York. Connecticut wanted a former Connecticut player, Kayla Green. New York needed a backup point guard. So it was a win-win. Can you picture Sydney Colson grabbing that microphone? Hello, I'm Sydney Colson. We're at Times Square now, and we're interviewing the person on the street. What do you know about Texas A&M? And Sydney Colson will do that.
Perfect for it.
Whereas Daniel Adams had a chance to go to San Antonio, the oldest team in the league. Old, the average age is 29. But she will get a chance to play with Danielle Robinson, Sophia Young, Becky Hammond. It's a great fit for her, and it's a great fit for Aggies to be able to continue to watch them.
Absolutely. Danielle Adams fits perfectly into that system. Even though she goes late, she's got to be really happy, because the WNBA is not about getting there, it's about staying there. And Aggies have had trouble staying there. She might be able to hang around there because it's a perfect spot for her in Coach Hughes' system. And then Sydney Colson in Times Square, but Madison Square Garden. Everybody here has a crush on Sydney Colson. I mean, in Aggie land, I just got to keep Derek Jeter away from her. You know what I'm saying? Because everybody in New York all of a sudden is going to start having a crush on Sydney Colson.
Well, I do need a Derek Jeter autograph for my Special Olympic golf tournament. That's a little plug, by the way, but I could get that. But Sydney will get me a few autographs, but then maybe Danielle can get me some Spurs. So don't count out the Spurs winning the whole thing this year.
All right, we're with Coach Gary Blair. It's a national championship edition of Talkin' Hoops with Logan Lee, Gary Blair, and Gabe Bach. Let's flash back a little bit, specifically talking about the games, the road, starting with the Final Four in Stanford. A 1-point victory. Colson to White with 3.3 left, after it looked like maybe they were going to get it when they scored with 9.1, but never quit. You guys got the job done late and go to the national championships. Let's first just talk about Stanford.
Stanford, people forget that we started out, I think, 12-2 in that game.
Yep.
We started out 12-2. We were playing very well, and then Colson got her second foul again. I've gone through this menu a number of times, but we have adjustments and we have other players, and Carter can play the one, or Pratcher can play the one, and Marianne can come in off the bench, and we have people that can play, and I think that's the versatility of our team, particularly our bench can play more than one position. We were lucky to only be down 4 at half. We had a little mini revival there at halftime, and Colson, you could see that look in her eyes. She said, I've got to quit making these dumb fouls. I've just got to quit making them. I've got to get it done. And then we need to spread the ball around. Tyra White was beautiful in the second half. Adams started contributing, got her 18, I believe. And Carter was throwing in needed threes when she played the point. And then Colson started running the break correctly. Now that one behind the back pass, left-handed, that about did me in. Well, I brought her over to the bench after that for a little bit more counseling, even though we needed her on the court. When she went back in to win the ball game, she made all the right calls, did the things possible. Then when it came down on that last break, she made the perfect pass to Tyra. Tyra went up and scored, was fouled, was not called. That's typical in the game situations. And then Colson was able to steal the ball on the last play.
Now, going into that game, Stanford has a tremendous offense. They have girls that can score from almost every position. But the talk was they had never met a defense that was in your face like Texas A&M. did y'all focus on frustrating Poland, getting after the two sisters from Cyprus? What was the main focus on defense going into that game?
You can say it, Logan. Agumake.
Agumake.
I cannot say it. They're the sisters to me.
The sisters, exactly. You get my point.
I get your point. I never use their name in
don't.
a press conference because I did not want to butcher their name, particularly knowing that there's two more sisters coming.
Yeah, that's right.
But no, what the focus was to play our style of game. We knew they had played North Carolina. Arizona and UCLA are pretty athletic. There's a difference between athletic and playing in-your-face defense, whether it's full court or half court. What we wanted to do was make them uncomfortable, and I think we were doing that. We forced them into 22 turnovers, and that's the most that they had all year. They patterned themselves around running the triangle offense. It's almost like looking at the Lakers run their triangle or whatever. They just don't make mistakes. But sometimes when you're fronting the post and you're in the person's shorts that's handling the ball and they're not able to sit back and make chest passes like that, they have to make hurried passes. And then we sneak somebody from the help side over in the paint there, and the only pass that's left is the cross pass all the way across, the skip pass, or to put it on the floor and score. And that's our strength. That's not Stanford's strength. Stanford's strength is execution. Our strength is taking them out of execution and turning them into one-on-one players.
And y'all did do that because Poland was trying to get the ball to the post. Her back was to the basket, so she couldn't even make the skip pass to really open up the floor for them. So, I mean, the frustration that you were talking about, getting in their face and dismantling them, that definitely helped.
And the thing that's good in the national tournaments, they let you play a little bit more. Because the referees have earned the right, and now they want the girls to decide it instead of teams just going to the free throw line. Also, if I'm not mistaken, we had 0 free throw attempts in the first half, but we went 10 out of 10 in the second half. And those were huge, particularly the 2 by Coulson that put us up by 1. And then we came back, and I think either Tyra or Danielle hit 2 more at the end. But that game was so special. I got an email from a fan here that it was either the championship game or the semifinal game, that one of our true fans had a heart attack here, had to be rushed to the hospital, put a stent in. She's doing all right now, so It's a good story now. But you think about everybody watching and pulling for us all over the country. They just couldn't believe that game. And by the time we got through Stanford, it wouldn't have mattered if it would have been Connecticut or Notre Dame. We felt like we could win it.
And then looking ahead to the championship game, 76-70 win over Notre Dame. Just a huge, huge game for Adams and White. And then Coulson stepped up at the end. Your best players played great at the right time. Carter, again, couldn't even probably – it was kind of like Von Miller when he had all the cramps and couldn't walk on Kyle Field, but yet he could get sacks when the game really mattered. Fellow DeSoto kid, wrecking crew defense from Carter. It was pretty unbelievable. Your best player stepped up at the end, got the job done. You guys are hoisting a national title.
We're hoisting it. When we got the 6-point lead, I think it was 67-61. I really felt good, and then we missed a shot. Skylar Diggins made a shot, and then they closed it. The key was she missed a free throw that either would have tied the game or made it a 2-point game. But then all of a sudden, we go into a possession, the ball's knocked out of bounds. It's a 2-point game at the time, and all of a sudden, it's 2 seconds to go on the shot clock. We run what we call 31 fist, which is a lob play to Danielle with Carter setting the screen. Well, they had 3 people on her, and right before the play, I motioned for Tyra to make sure she pushes to the side in case that Coulson recognized, don't throw the lob. She found Tyra White over there. She made the shot. Now, I know you were a part of AC Law's shot.
Yes.
But, folks, this shot was even harder. Skylar Diggins was right in her face, and she goes up, gets part of the elbow, and Tyra's a line drive shooter anyway. Nothing but net.
At the shot clock.
At the shot
national
clock.
To really win a
game.
national title.
Exactly.
I mean, you
National
kidding me?
championship
Shot her
game.
around the world. That's Bobby Thompson, Coach.
Well, I like that. That was a New York Giant at the time in 1951.
Ralph Branca? Ralph Branca was the pitcher there.
That's right, Dodger pitcher.
Boom.
That's pretty good. And you're saying, who are the New York Giants? I thought they were San Francisco Giants.
Come on,
we're giving you a little history lesson.
I knew that much. I
look,
just didn't know the
Brooklyn
name.
Dodgers, too,
I
by the
want
way.
you to call AC and tell him his shot is still there. But right now, the shot is Tyra's. And even more so than TK's when we beat Oklahoma here on Big Monday.
How about I just text him that?
You go ahead and text him that.
Okay.
And he's still with the Bulls, right?
No, out West Coast, Warriors.
Oh, right with the Warriors. Well, they'll get a good lottery pick. I was hoping he'd stayed with the Bulls because they might win the whole thing this year.
That is true.
But the shot, she's the Tyra White. She's the AC Law of women's basketball right now, Coach.
I hope they come up with a pitcher or something like Benjamin Knox did or something like this. I hope some fledgling artist out there that's listening to me right now will say, hey, I want to create that shot. Okay? Because we need to be able to tell our history for years and years to come. And hopefully this is what Reed Arena is going to be in years to come, that we can have the type of museum and the concourse that you have at Kansas, that you have at Oklahoma State and some other places. We've got everything else, but now we need to tell our story. And to tell the story, we need to raise a little bit more money to make this thing happen.
And it seemed like you guys were celebrating for months. It was only a few days, but the on-court celebration, cutting down the nets, the locker room, the Notre Dame confetti all over the court as you guys are celebrating in Aggie Line. I thought that was pretty poignant. And then coming back here, and I know you had hundreds after you beat Baylor, and I know we sat in your office and you were hoping for thousands the next week, and that's exactly what you got. Just the whole celebration after winning the title, Coach.
It was that night. Until you experience it, by the time the game's over, you do the celebration, then you go back and do the press. So it's almost an hour and 20 minutes before you leave. Then you have to go to a different hotel for them to present the crystal ball over there. When they present the crystal ball, we still had about 400 Aggies over there, and all the parents were sitting over there. The ball was presented. We took pictures. Then I was able to have all the parents come up and stand below, and then all our kids and all our kids' parents were there except for one who couldn't make it, and that was our walk-on, Catherine Snow. But they were all there, special picture that they'll have in their living rooms forever. Then we go back to another hotel where we're staying, the Omni, and then they had another 500 people. Now, by that time, there was a few Aggies that were overserved. But at the same time, they cherished in what we were doing. And I finally went to the hotel, my room, about 4 o'clock, and my family was still down there, and all the other Aggies, and my little 7-year-old grandson, he was wired, and it was fun. But then I wanted to go up and start thinking about what this next day was going to be. And I got 1 hour sleep between 7 and 8, and then I had the Mike and Mike show, and I had the KBTX morning show, and then we had the first edition to do. And then all of a sudden you leave and you come back, and to see people lined along the fence there at the airport, all the way down Discovery, parking their cars because there was no spots, and then being able to walk in. What a moment. Our kids will not realize it right now. They enjoyed it then. But as an older AARP guy, I'll remember this the rest of my life. And our kids will also in time. But right now, it's special. The kids were going to class, getting standing ovations from their classmates and everything. And it's not stopping. It just keeps on going and going and going. But at the same time, we have to put things in perspective. We've got to recruit this weekend. I'll be in Norfolk and Dallas, and so will my other assistants. We've got speaking obligations, but we've got homework. Homework. This is why we're here, because of the scholarship to get an education first, and then to be able to play basketball. So we're playing a lot of catch-up, knowing that we've really been gone almost 5 straight weeks and weekends.
You know, you brought up Logan, your grandson, and I know you like this Logan, and then there's a Logan Schaefer, and you like all those Logans, but there's one Logan that stands out to you, and that's your grandson Logan. And he's the moment I think is going to, we kind of encapsulated it in photo, him holding up that first sign, Stanford, saying Gary Blair is my hero. We retook another one where he said, when we win, Gary Blair's taking me to Disney World. To have him, that had to calm you down. Not only you have the plus sign on your hand to stay positive, but if it's starting to get tight and you look over there and see that little kid who loves you more than anything in the world holding that banner, Gary Blair is my hero, had to be pretty special and probably calm you down a little bit.
It was special. My granddaughter, of course, was 1. She didn't come. She came to the Big 12 and to Shreveport, but it was special to have your whole family there. The only one that was not there was my sister and her husband over, they're missionaries over in South Africa, but they watched it on the computer. But it was just so special that everyone is there and you're getting a sense of joy in there. There was a great picture somebody took of me hugging my wife and Vic hugging his wife, and we were about 5 feet apart, and we'll blow up, and that's going to make a great picture. But just think what the spouses have to go through living with us coaches 365 days a year. It's not a lot of fun. And we owe so much to our families for putting up with this little game that we play, but it's what we do. I'm not a banker, I'm not an insurance man, I'm not a car salesman. I coach basketball, and most of the time I get to wear short pants to work. So until somebody tells me there's a better job than what I have, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing.
I think that's the reason why Logan and Katie got out of coaching, because it's not for everybody. It can be tough. And speaking to that, the whole world, the sporting world, got a chance to experience your personality and wit. Some for the first time. It's kind of old hat to us. We're used to you, but the whole nation got to kind of experience it. And what has this whole deal maybe done for Gary Blair? And as much respect as you have for the coaches that you beat in this run, all of them in the Hall of Fame, except Muffet, I don't believe is yet, but will be. I think this might finally.
She went in this year.
Oh, she went in this year. Okay, and then Tara's going in upcoming year. So everybody's Hall of Famers. What would this mean to you, possibly getting you in, because as much respect as you have for that, the whole thing?
I'd just as soon go to Johnny Lyons Hall of Fame out there in 2818 and hear Zona Jones or Aaron Watson or whatever. Here's some good country. And other than that, it's the memories. Like I said, the reflecting back to the 30 years of people that have helped me get to where I was. I was not a basketball player like him. I sat on the bench. I was a skinny baseball player. That's all right, but you sat on a bigger bench than I did. So your bench was better than my bench. But it was, you just go back to the memories, the speaking obligations and all of that. That comes with the territory. But I'll fill every email, every letter that's been sent to me, and I'll respond. It might take me a while because I just learned how to text 2 months ago, and it's like this. But unless my secretary helps me some on getting it out, it might be the middle of the summer. But it's going to help in recruiting. It's going to help on putting butts in the seats next year. Instead of just watching on television or reading the Eagle the next day, people are going to say, well, maybe I should join up where all my friends and neighbors are going, but I just hadn't bought into women's athletics. I just can't do it. Okay, I just can't do it. But if they come and you meet Sidney Colson after a ball game, or a Sidney Carter, or a Tyra White, you're going to be hooked. So I'm telling you people out there, if you don't want to be hooked, keep reading about us or listening. But if you want to be hooked, you come meet these Texas A&M athletes, and that's what it's all about, the student athletes here at Texas A&M.
And we've talked about your superstars on the floor. What about your superstars on the sideline with you? Vic Schaefer, Kelly Bond, Johnny Harris. Obviously, they mean a lot to the program. How much do they mean in terms of coaching, recruiting, and just being part of your staff?
The best strength that I have is I hire good people that might be smarter than me in certain areas. And the ego that a coach or a star athlete has, you better be able to recognize that, and you better be able to let people work. And Kelly Bond up here, she runs this office. okay, with everything that she's doing, designing the locker room, designing all the little things. Now, she works with other people in our support staffs, but it's all her ideas. The recruiting base that her and Johnny have been able to get for us. We stayed up here late last night talking to recruits before we go out this weekend, and we'll be up here again. And she knows every coach, every situation in the country, and that's what she's added. She helps me with the offense. She does that. Johnny, you go back, Coach Harris, look at our inbounds plays. We scored on over 50% of inbounds plays, not the possession, but the play itself. The play itself. And sometimes you hit the first or second option. She does all that. She looks at all the other teams. She looks at men's basketball tapes to see what we need. And Vic Schaefer, he's been with me 14 years. He's just like a brother to me out there, unless we're playing golf, and then he's an opponent. He's better than me, but I used to be better than him. But on a given day, maybe. But he's added so much to what we do here because of his passion, first for A&M, since he's the only former Aggie 84 graduate, his passion for teaching the game. A lot of people want to coach the game, but he knows how to teach the game. His in-game adjustments that he makes, and his relationship with everybody around A&M, from his family on down, what he had to do to go through with his son this year. They almost lost him, but here Logan is doing fine, playing baseball. His wife is an excellent coach herself over there in the middle schools over there in Consol, and it's just been a win-win situation. Hopefully this is going to open up doors for my assistants. Now, it might close doors for me because I've had them so long, but if it opens up doors for my assistants, then I want them to become head coach or administrators, and then I'll start that new group that'll come in with me. But you're only as good as the people around you, and I've got some great people around me.
Before we close it out and look ahead, a moment for the seniors. Marianne Baker, Sydney Colson, Danielle Adams, and Catherine Snow.
First, as a coach and as sort of a father figure away from home to these young ladies, it's an honor to coach seniors. Seniors, I said in that tribute there that we do not get to wear senior boots like the Corps, but we wear senior rings and championship rings. And they're special. They're special because they don't understand it will never get any better than their senior year in college. Now, they might marry, make money, and be successful, but the last year at Texas A&M University is something they need to remember the rest of their life. We have ring day on Friday, and a couple of my juniors, Skylar and Adora, are getting their rings. It's special. And that is just something that I want all our kids to realize how important it is to be an Aggie and what you represent. You have to go out there. You don't have to sell A&M. You have to represent A&M. And that's all it takes is you are a role model to a lot of just regular students. They don't have to be athletes to understand what Texas A&M is all about.
And looking ahead to next year, is it too early to start talking repeat? Do you just let yourself enjoy this for a moment? It's been 8 days or so, I guess now, or 9 days. I guess we can talk about it now, Coach. But I know right after the game, Sydney Carter was already talking about it. She's not happy with just one. She wants to experience. She couldn't describe the feeling, but she wanted to experience whatever that was one more time, and that's next year. And she said she's rallying the troops already. You know you're going to have a special senior leader in that girl, and you're going to have some really good seniors back next year. Also the beginning of the Kelsey Bone era in earnest, and she's got all kinds of confidence in the world to replace what Danielle did. But I think this team's good enough to win it again.
Let's enjoy this one right now. For my opponents, it'll be but it'll be revenge, trying to get back on what we were able to do to them. You don't go into the NCAA tournament and be up by 31 on Georgia at halftime. To beat Rutgers like we did 2 times in a row, or McNeese State, or to jump out on Stanford 12-2, or to be able to close out Baylor like we did. I mean, those things are magical, but they're all well earned. There was no lucky shot. There was no bad call. Texas A&M won. Notre Dame did not lose. Texas A&M won the national championship. I want to be refocused before we can use that word repeat. Remember, we didn't win the Big 12 tournament. We didn't win the Big 12 championship. I want to put myself in position next year that perhaps we're going to be favored right along with Baylor, because Baylor's going to be just as good as they were this year. And they're going to be that good as long as Kim Mulkey and Brittany Griner's there. So they're not going away. At least Griner will go away in 2 more years. But we've got Sydney Carter. We got Skylar Collins that's ready to move into Miriam Baker's role. We got Adora Lanu, who's just the quiet leader, the captain on our team that just gets the job done just like her brother Junior did. Then you've got Tyra White, who's ready to come in to the All-American stature that's going to be there, and she'll be sitting there next year, hopefully, at that WNBA draft. And then you have the Kelsey Bone era coming in. And you've got the continued development of Carla Gilbert. All those things are coming in, and we hadn't even talked about the recruits. So I've got a 6'7", Rachel Mitchell, coming in from Atascocita. She needs to be developed a little, very similar to what Junior had to be developed when he first got here. We've got a point guard that's going to challenge for that starting lineup, and Lexia Standage. Then you've got a kid in Louisiana who's another Mariniki, and Tori Scott. So there's more coming, but there's even more out there. And if we sit back and pat ourselves on the back, we should be kicking ourselves in the butt, because people are working as we're being congratulated. And you've got to go on, and you've got to feel it, and you've just got to go out there. And yes, Bristol was great in the championship and all going to the White House and all that stuff's to follow. But we've still got to be recruiting those juniors and the sophomores and the freshmen. And then we've got to get in this practice gym back here and develop the kids that came off the bench. We've got to continue developing that, because skill level is what it's all about. If they improve their skill level, our system will get them to that next level and get our team back, hopefully, to Denver in 2012.
Well, Coach, we can't tell you how much we appreciate the time. You got anything as we close it out, Logan?
Congratulations, Coach. Magical year.
Hey, as Tyra White said, I've got one word, but it's actually 2, gig 'em.
Gary Blair, Logan Lee, Gabe Bach, a national championship edition of Talkin' Hoops with Gary Blair, exclusively on TexAgs.com.